I tell them that they have the power and authority to help change the world and make it a better place than what it are, and then what it already is. I give them three words. I say the first word is lead. We don't need no more followers. We need the ones that are willing to lead to lead. And I tell them, I say, look, everybody can't be a leader.
Welcome to Cleats, Chaos, and Coffee, the podcast for the sports mom, the underdogs, the ride-or-die sideline warriors who have had their hearts broken, their wallets drained, their schedules hijacked by youth sports and college sports. Today, our guest is going to be the amazing Ricky Sapp, a former Clemson standout, NFL player, trainer, and powerhouse speaker. Everything else in between. Welcome, Ricky. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for being here. You forgot to say a great dancer as
That's
well.
right. I
Come on,
forgot. If you
let's
haven't
go.
seen his Instagram reels where he dances, you are missing out. That makes my day. Every day I go looking for him. You never know who we'll have in there either.
Okay.
Uh, so we're going to ask you some fun and interesting questions. So we're going to go ahead and jump into today. We're going to talk about what's changed and what do you think needs to improve in youth sports, how to keep athletes in the game without losing themselves, and the one thing that you wish parents and coaches knew about this journey. You ready for that? Is that
I'm
okay?
ready.
Yeah,
I'm
okay. All right.
ready.
All right. All right. With everything you've handled, I'm sure this is, you got this. So the first question would be, you've seen every level of the game, from player to pro player. You've been in the grind, the glory. What is your biggest shift you've seen in youth sports today? And what is still kind of stuck in the same place you think that may need to be changed?
I think the biggest shift that I've seen that is different from when I grew up is that parents are now really trying to live through their kids. I see so many parents that are streaming and yelling at the refs, just trying to get involved with the game. I see parents that are taking their kids around the world to all these camps and all these personal trainers. And look, having a personal trainer is great, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that this is a kid sport. These are young kids, and you have to let a kid be a kid. Now, I understand that when they get to a certain age, maybe when they get older, then maybe, you know, start with the trainer. But the biggest thing I've seen today is that these parents, man, a lot of them are trying to live through the kids. And I will say this, I have to say this. We are in a time where we have a lot of helicopter parents. When I played football, my mom and dad could care less about the coach screaming and yelling and me getting hit hard and all that stuff. Like I remember, being at practice and being at a game and, getting yelled at and getting hit hard and going home. And my mom and dad like, hey son, how was the day?
Yeah. I'm
So,
still alive. Everything's still together.
I think that's the biggest shift. Another thing is that, back then when I played, of course, the money aspect was so different. When I went and played sports, funny enough, I got into playing sports because we rolled by a gate and we just saw practice. Pop wanted practice, and I was like, "Mom, can I go play?" So I
Oh,
went, and
wow.
it
That
was
was the start, huh?
that's it, and
Ah.
it was $10 done now, and now you're
Whole
talking
industry.
about
It's a whole industry.
$300 plus. So those are the two things that I've seen that have changed.
What's funny? Because we just had the podcast last week, and it was another previous player and a trainer. He almost mirrored the same thing you said. Um, and that is actually, part of why I kind of started Peak Play was the problem is these parents are living vicariously through these kids, what they didn't complete, or they want their kid to be the next, you know, LeBron James for basketball and, so on and so forth. So, I mean, have you even seen what's on TV? There was a statistic that it was actually between everything that is affected by sport, it's the parents that affects the kid the most. I mean, you have parents fighting at hockey games that are 10 years old. So I definitely have seen that shift 100%. And I don't think it's anymore about supporting the child. I think it's about parents Okay, so if I get him doing the trainings, if I get him doing this, he's definitely going to be that. And I have to say, I, as Ricky knows, was a parent who had my kids in sports early more for what they could learn for it. I did have my older son really gravitated for the love of basketball. But the drive was his. It was never, "Come on, kid, let's do it." It was to support him where he was, and as a parent, to guide, to make sure there was a balance. If there was something that wasn't right physically, mentally, it's time to address it. It's either time to take back seat, to move something over, or to shift. So as a parent, I do think that's a really important part of the journey is if your kid has a passion for it, some just do. Some are just in there and they love it and they're enjoying it and they're having a great time and they can't get enough of it. But I think if you're bringing your kid to a trainer, and that's the previous guest had made the same comment. I've got kids coming to me to train, and it's more because of the parent versus the kid. So I 100% completely see where that has shifted. And it does seem as far as parent, and I necessarily don't think parents are looking to not be the best they can for their child. I just don't think they necessarily know how. And I think that if they see they're putting the time and the money and the energy in their child, well, shouldn't that come back at some point? And as we know, it just doesn't always. The percentage, if you look at the percentage of football players and basketball players, it's a 1% that make it to the next level, and that's not to say there aren't other levels because there are. There are levels all the way down to club. I know kids that were the superstar of their high school and are playing club and are happy. There are so many different levels, but I think it's where that kid wants to be. Is that what you find too when you are working? Do you ever get in a situation where you are working with a child? They have talent, maybe not enough? And then how do you handle that with the parent?
Well, 110%. I see a lot of times where parents say, "My kid's gonna be the next best thing. He is going to the pros." And then they're like 5'1" and they're not fast, and you're like, um, still to this day, parents send me film on their kid, and they're like, "Hey, look, he did this today. He did 345 today. What do you think about Clemson recruiting? What do you think about this?" And I have to be honest with them. I have to say, "Look, if 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 they're not good at this, certain things, I just don't see them being able to get recruited at this level." And parents don't want to hear that. They don't hear it. And listen, I understand as a parent. I want my kids to be the best too, but you can't give them false hope. You just can't, because that's gonna only hurt them in the long run, as well as you.
That's where I find the support comes in. Know where they are and be willing to say, "Hey, listen, you may not be D level, but you could play D3 in the I, you could play club, you could do it. If it's a passion and you love it, keep playing it. But there's a level for you, and it may not just be D1."
I told my son when he was young, my son was 7, and of course I was blessed to, be this big time recruit and play at Clemson, play the NFL. And when my son started playing ball, the one thing he always heard was, "Man, your dad did this, your dad did that." And believe it or not, I told my son's mom, I said, "Hey, look, can we steer him away to another sport?" So up until my son, yeah, up because I didn't want him to feel that pressure of like, I gotta play my dad. And knowing the game of football, I was like, man, I would love for him to play something else. But once he got on that field, he ran with it. And he said, "Dad, I love this game. I want to play it." I said, "Son, if we go play this sport, we're gonna work for it."
100%, and that's exactly what I mean. If you're in it, you're working for it.
I said, "You don't have to be me." I said, "Create your own lane." And I said, "I could care less, son, about you going to play in the NFL." I said, "But I do care about your education." And my son is a senior right now off of football. And
Woo!
we had a conversation.
Woo!
We had a conversation before he left to go back. I said, "Son, man," I teared up, and he said, "Dad, why you gotta cry?" But I said, "Look, I'm proud of you, man. I can care less about you going to play football after this." I said, "You created your own lane. I'm happy for you. Whatever happened this year with football happens, but just Go continue to create your own lane.
That is such a powerful statement for somebody who's lived the life and journey that you went, to be a supporter of your child, to be there to want the best for them, no matter what level. I mean, you played pro, if I'm correct, Eagles, correct? Is that right?
Go Cowboys though. But yeah, the Eagles definitely. Make sure we post that real. Go Cowboys.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. The fact that you're letting him choose that path. You literally said, "Hey, listen, this is not about me. I want it about my child. This is his path, his journey. He's having success on the field, but more importantly, off the field. He is a successful adult." Which I think is where every parent wants to be. 100%. So that kind of leads me into the next question. So, the fact that you work with so many young athletes, what is your approach to having them still love the game when maybe you've had the conversation of, listen, there's a lot required, we may be at a different level? How do you keep them in that love of the game?
Well, first and foremost, the thing that I love about athletes is you can tell right away if they really are in it for them and if they love it. And then, once I have that conversation with them where I say, hey, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it, full go. We're going to go to 100%. And this is what it's going to require. Are you willing to do it? And once the kid look at me and say, yeah, then we roll. The one thing about me that I've been blessed to be able to do is I can feel energy. I can tell if a kid really, really wants this. And the way I keep them going and motivated is, showing up every day with all this energy and passion that I have, and I always tell kids this, I'm not coaching the athlete, I'm coaching the person. So you're not only going to learn, football from me, you're going to learn about life. And one thing I've learned about training kids, just training people in general, is they're going to tell you their whole full life story. So I'm going to learn everything about them. But, keeping them motivated is me showing up every day, energized, passionate, and giving them attention and telling them everything I see on that day and saying, hey, look, let's keep going one day at a time. This is what's next. Let's keep going one day at a time. This is what's next. Are you ready?
Absolutely. And I will say, full confession, you were part of the biggest game changer for me as a parent was to build a village. And I built a village of supporters that were trainers and coaches and people that I could trust, that I knew had my kids' best interest. And Ricky, you were one of them, which is why you're here today, because you were part of that village. You were there. And I know my son, surely enough, told you stories and talked to you and really had a great relationship with you. By the way, when he worked out with you, I think that was the most buff he ever was. But just saying, as far as physically. But you were part of his village where he knew that no matter what he ran into, he had that confidence that he could reach out to you at any point. Sorry, full confession, Ricky, you were part of my son's village. You were one of the people I mentioned. I had coaches, I had trainers, I had formed relationship. I was really aware of who my kids were working with. I put them with people that I knew really had their best interest as an individual. If you had come to me and said, listen, he's passionate, he's great, this may not be his full thing, or let's move him over here, I would have listened. Because you guys were that support village that they would go to no matter what problem. And my son's 23, and I still know he periodically reaches out to you. And I think you trained him, gosh, 13, 14, 15. So those villages, that is the best gift you can give your child. So, full confession, you were part of that village probably without even knowing it.
Well, I think that's powerful when what you just said, because that's what I preach, man. It takes a village to raise kids. So look, don't be trying to make me cry early in the morning. Okay, all right.
He
But
completely adores you and still does to this day. So
uh,
that's such an impact. What a gift that it is to give that to your children, those relationships to have. for, throughout the years is just such a powerful thing. And there, I will say, there were people that I did move him away from too.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think as a parent is making sure you're aware of who your child's with, what influence, and you can tell if somebody cares about your child or not.
I
Easy.
didn't get I didn't get fired. Yes.
I don't think fired was ever an option for you, my dear. But so anyways, I completely understand, and like I said, having you be there for my son was a game changer, and I think it's that honesty and relationship you have with those kids. I know they do tell you. The kids will tell you because sometimes they can't speak to the parent, and sometimes they really just don't want to, and I'm okay with that. That's why it was really important for me to put other people around them that they would talk to. So so thank you for that, whether you knew it or not. So you had a front row in this whole system, and if you could sit every sport parent down for 5 minutes, what's the one thing that you would want them to understand about this whole journey?
It's not your journey, it's their journey. Your your position is to guide them and say, "Hey, hey, make sure you do this, make sure you do that." But it's not your journey, it's not your journey, it's their journey. Listen to your coaches. I'm only gonna be here to support you along the way. I'm not gonna jump off the sideline and jump on the coaches and say, "Hey, my son needs to play." No, no, no. I'm not gonna do that. If I see that, my kids should be playing, then I need to show up and watch practice. I don't need to jump down the coach back and say, "Hey, play my son, play my son." We can't do that. We can't do that. Be- Because now we live in a world where everybody wants to press the instant gratification button, press the easy button. And that's not how sports and life works. It's just not how it works. So if I had a group of parents, I would tell them that, man, look, it's not your journey, it's their journey. You're just here to guide them. And look, you're going to have to be okay if your son or daughter is not the best player on the team. That's just life. But it doesn't mean they can't develop into being that, you know?
100%. And not only that, I will say I have certainly seen that, and I'm sure you've seen much more, but the highs and lows of having two sons that were athletes in this whole journey. Both of mine did play, a college ball. My younger son had an incident that made national news, but my older son, he played a lot, but in his college days, certainly not as much as he would like. And it came to a point where he was mentally okay with that. And he said, listen, this path got me college. You know, he was able to also get his college, a substantial amount of the financial aspects covered from college. He was recruited to a boarding school that was completely paid for basketball. So I'm saying there are so many benefits, but you allowing your child to take that journey and kind of figure some stuff out on their own, and maybe they all want to be D1 when they go into college, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to play pro and I'm going to go on that. Halfway into his college career, it was like, yeah, this basketball, it was just a tool. It was a tool to get me to the next level. So I do think that transition, and I think it's tough because when you play sports your whole life, I think a lot of kids walk out going, now what? And I actually am going to throw that question. What happens when they are done with sports? So college is over. Now what? You didn't make it to the professionals. That's okay. You're not traveling across the world. What now?
That's so powerful because I'll tell you about that later on with my transition. But that's why I tell so many parents and so many athletes now, what is your plan when you're done? Because eventually sports is going to tell everybody, hey, I'm done with you. Sports told Michael Jordan that. Sports not about to tell LeBron James that. So what's next? When I played sports, I had no idea what else I was into. I had no idea what my other gifts was. I had no idea what else I was passionate about. So I tell kids all the time, I said, I know you love playing sports. I know you think it's like your main purpose. And it may be for a short amount of time, but there's something else in you that you're supposed to be doing. Let's find out what that is. So that is so important to know what else that you're good at, to know what your purpose is. Because eventually, it's gonna be done.
Help that passion, help them find exactly that other passion that is in there. But yeah, I do find a lot of kids walk out with that experience. Um, Now, I also know that you're a pretty powerful speaker. You go across, across the country speaking to different schools. What is probably the biggest message, or what message is a consistent message that you talk to young groups about?
I tell them that they have the power and authority to help change the world and make it a better place than what it are, and then what it already is. I give them 3 words. I say the first word is lead. We don't need no more followers. We need the ones that are willing to lead to lead. And I tell them, I say, look, everybody can't be a leader. I think God chose many, but only few are willing. So if you know you are a leader, we need you to lead. We don't need no more followers. I know social media has came and turned us all into followers. The next word I give them is I say fearless. Now, normally I scream and shout when I do that one. I won't do it
No.
on here. But the the second word is fearless. Be willing to do the right thing, even when it's not the cool thing. And then the last thing that I give them is dream big. Don't ever let a small mind convince you that your dreams are too big.
Oh, I like that last statement. I might steal
And
that from you.
that's my main message that I tell kids all over the world. I say, man, the generation before you, and generation now, we've done a lot of things, but there's still work to be done. And the message that I feel like God has put in me to tell them is that, hey, you guys can be the generation that come along and make a even bigger change and even bigger impact.
Generational shift,
Yeah.
100%.
But you got work to do. And those are the 3 things that I tell them that, hey, this is how you can implement that power and authority.
What do you wish somebody had told you?
I wish that someone had told me that your talent is not going to be able to sustain you forever. You're going to have to develop that talent. You're going to have to work harder. I was young. I was 6'4", 185 pounds, running a 4.3 in high school. I was super talented. And I'm sure I had coaches maybe along the way that maybe said something along the lines, maybe work harder, but nobody sit me down and said, hey, look, you're a super talented kid, but you're going to have to continue to develop that talent because all my life, what I thought was that all I had to do is show up, and I'm going to out talent. I'm out talent you, but you guys know hard work will beat talent every day. And eventually, I learned that the hard way in my career. Even with my motivational speaking, when I got motivational speaking, when God revealed to me that I was talented in it, I was like, all right, all I gotta do is show up. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Preparation,
Aren't we all there?
prepar- winning and success comes from preparation. Confidence comes from preparation. So I wish I can go back and tell my younger self that, like, hey man, I know you're fast and strong and all that, but
Keep
let's
going,
work a
man.
little harder. Let's stay after practice and put a couple extra reps in.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of what, I did the same thing with my kids as far as, if you're in this and you really want to be in this, then it's some work. We're just going to have to keep on going. If you don't, let's talk about it. But if you're in it, you're in it. Are you still at Clemson? Are you just traveling around more? What is your kind of purpose in life at the moment?
Glad you asked that. So I left Clemson in 2023. I was a strength and conditioning coach. I left in 2021, Myrtle Beach. I stopped doing that at Clemson to do my motivational speaking full time.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the rules, but the NCAA rules are if I work at Clemson, I can't go talk to kids that
Oh, I
are
was not aware.
well, they can't be 11 or older because then they are
Influence.
recruitable. So I went to Coach Dabo Sweeney, and all the Clemson fans out there, they appreciate this. I went to Coach Sweeney and I said, Coach, man, I want to speak, man. And I can't do that and work here. And he's like, no, you can't. And he said, this is what he said. He said, go do it. Then he said, what's your schedule like? And I'm like, my schedule? What do you mean? He's like, well, I'm not letting you go out in the world and speak without me knowing that you can do it. So I want you to speak to the team. Now, let's rewind back when I was speaking before I got to Clemson. I was working at Myrtle Beach and doing my whenever I would try to go speak to these big D1 colleges, the first question they would say is, "Well, have you spoken at Clemson yet?" See, this is how God works. So I go to Coach Sweeney in 2023, and I said, "Coach, man, I want to go speak." He said, "Well, look, I'm not letting you leave until you speak to the team." So then he gave me a testimonial video, and
Oh,
so
that
there's
didn't have a little bit of weight to it.
anyway. So now I do motivational speaking full time. I just wrote my second kids book.
May be sure let's make sure we get the info
Yeah,
on that for our guest,
I got it for you
100%.
right here.
Oh, look at that. What's it called?
So it's called Ricky's Two Bullies. That's
Oh,
my second book that it just came out 3 weeks ago, maybe.
I didn't know
And
any of that.
yep, and my first book was Dream Big.
Okay,
My
yeah,
first book was Dream Big. It tells my story about how I got in playing sports, how I got in trouble. So um I'm doing my speaking, traveling to schools. I'm also doing writing books. I also have my own nonprofit foundation. It's called the Ricky Sapp Foundation as well. I
amazing.
also do a podcast as well on Tuesday called Mentorship
Amazing. Well, I'm sure
Tuesday.
you did, yes, for those that are much more experienced than I am.
I don't know about that. And you know, I I'm a different motivational speaker. I am the dancing motivational speaker. So
Yes, if you have not seen his Instagram, I'm begging you. Now, I will just say I have only seen it on Instagram, so it's probably everywhere,
oh
but I've
yes, everybody, yeah.
yeah, okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
It's fun. It's just lighthearted, it's fun, and I remember seeing you dancing at Clemson with the guys.
So funny thing about that is that you saw me dancing at the front of the door. So it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And when I first started the job, they thought I was crazy. They was like, "Who is this dude, man? And why is he doing this?" And sure
Thank God
enough,
you left.
eventually they loved it. They was like, "Man,
How can you
coach,
not? How
they
can
loved
you
it." And
not? It's just some free flowing dancing.
but I would post a video of me dancing, and people would see the football players just walking by like I'm not even there.
Nothing's happening.
And I and people would say, Why do they do that?" I say, "Listen, they are used to it. It's 6 in the morning. They don't care. They
They
just
ain't dancing, they're just barely rolling in the door.
they're just walking by." So it was amazing
You
times.
definitely have to check that out. Now, are you going around to colleges more? Or are you going around to schools more, high schools? Where can people find you, or where can a parent look for you if you're in their area? Or I'm sure you have a type of schedule, but where do you kinda hover?
But first, you definitely can go to my website, the if you wanna go on there and have a conversation about me coming and speak. Mostly I go to schools, all schools, elementary, even primary, all the way to high school. And then, of course, I do, college football teams. I do college sports. But my bread and butter is schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. Yeah.
Now, I'm curious because of that age, and this is kind of where I teeter a little bit, with my work is when they're that young, I'm sure they see you and are inspired, and I'm sure a little of the football dance goes off in their head. Um, what do you tell those that young age? The ones that are just getting that passion of I have superstar Ricky here, and I want to be just like them. What do you kinda tell that age?
That's a really, really great question. I keep my message the same for everybody. Now of course, once I get to college, it's a little different, and of course, if a school wanted the message, but I keep my message the same. Now, the thing that I have to do is I have to change the way I interact with certain groups because kids that young, I have to bring
Some
extra
energy.
extra energy, but I also have to make sure that I'm doing things throughout the speech where it's engaging
Right.
because kids that age are
Your
not
dance
going to
would
pay
cover
attention.
it, don't you? Don't you think your dance
What?
would cover it? Do you have a
So
dance as you go in or go out? Because I can see that happening.
So the thing that I love about this speaking is that every age group is different. That young group, that first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth group, they love to dance. They still they're not too cool for school yet.
Yeah,
So
I was
like
gonna say they're okay
they
with
they
it.
are, they are gonna come in, and as soon as I say, "Hey, who can dance?" Oh, they go with it. They dance and
I'm kind of
dance.
expecting you to have like an intro where you walk down and you're dancing to start the whole thing. You tell me that's not going on yet? If not, I'm gonna claim it and say that needs to be implemented. I'm just gonna say
Well,
it.
the way I do it is I come into the school with a boombox. I'm not sure if you guys but the boombox is back in style. So
Really, with a
I have a
boombox?
boombox that I come in with, and I blast music as
May
loud
not
as I
know what the
can.
heck that is.
But I I'm a different kind of speaker as far as I don't want to be in the back. I don't want to be in no frapping green room. So I bring my boombox in, I blast music, and I dap every kid up that comes in. And that young group, when they come in, they not too cool. They're not too cool for school. So they laugh. They're like, "Who is this guy?" They dapping me up, saying cool things. Now, when it gets to the middle school, that's when it gets a little shaky as far as they'll try and come in and try and act too cool and you know.
Yeah, and
But
try
I
to pretend they're not excited.
try to,
Okay.
but I still get them. Now, the high school group, that's the group, they're like, "Well, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
we don't
yeah,
care."
you're here,
But
okay, we're doing our duty, yeah, alright.
but when they walk in, they can't help but start being, curious, like, "Man," so, I play the songs that they like, and then when I ask the high school kids, um let's dance. Most times they point to other kids and like, no, 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 they can dance. So the high school group is a little tougher to get them dance, but I have never been anywhere where I didn't get kids to dance. Yeah. I've been
I
both.
100% believe that because 'cause I'm watching your videos and going, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, here we go." And this white girl, she can't dance that well, so
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Anyways,
Love it.
I'm gonna say it once again, having you in our life has been a blessing and a big treasure for us. And, for my son, there's nothing for a parent to know that there's somebody who really, I'm gonna say, gives a shit about your child because you actually cared to the core and it makes all the difference. So thank you for your journey. I know it's going to lead you to some amazing places, and I can't wait to be on the sidelines and watch and root for you. And good for your son, by the way. I didn't realize that. I kind of remember when he got recruited, but I forgot about that. So congratulations to him too.
Thank you. It means a lot. Thank
What a blessing for you.
you. Yeah,
So
thank
thank you for your time, Rich. Yeah, I know you are completely busy, booked, and rolling. So I know this time is valuable, and we will make sure that we let everybody know where they can find you
you so
and those
much.
books.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ricky.